A poem for you to start. Big surprise. They Should Have Asked My Husband is the name of the poem, and it's by Pam Ayres, and it's a British poet, so there will be some maybe different things we're not used to hearing. You know, this world is complicated, imperfect, and oppressed, and it's not hard to feel timid, apprehensive, and depressed. It seems that all around us tides of questions ebb and flow, and people want solutions, but they don't know where to go. Opinions abound, but who is wrong and who is right? People need a prophet, a diffuser of light, someone they can turn to as the crises rage and swirl, someone with the remedy, the wisdom, and the pearl. Well, they should have asked my husband. He'd have told them then and there his thoughts on immigration, teenage mothers, Tony Blair, the future of the monarchy, house prices in the South, the wait for hip replacements, BSE and foot and mouth. Yes, they should have asked my husband. He can sort out any mess. He can rejuvenate the railways. He can cure the NHS. So any little niggle, anything you want to know, just run it past my husband, wind him up and let him go. Congestions on the motorways, free holidays for thugs, the damage to the ozone layer, refugees and drugs. These may defeat the brain of any politician bloke, but present it to my husband and he'll solve it with a stroke. He'll clarify the situation, he will make it crystal clear. You'll feel the glazing of your eyeballs and the bending of your ear. Corruption at the top, he's an authority on that. And the mafia, Gaddafi, and Yasser Arafat. Upon these areas, he brings his intellect to shine in a great, compelling voice that's twice as loud as yours or mine. I often wonder what it must be like to be so strong, infallible, articulate, self-confident, and wrong. When it comes to tolerance, he hasn't got a lot. Joyriders should be guillotined and muggers should be shot. The sound of his own voice becomes like music to his ears. And he hasn't got an inkling that he's boring us to tears. My friends don't call so often. They have busy lives, I know. But it's not every day you want to hear a windbag suck and blow. Encyclopedias? On them he will never call. Why clutter up the bookshelf when my husband knows it all?
Was this written by Melania Trump?
Yeah, no. Will you join me in prayer? Holy One, we say that we want to walk with you. Yet how often have we not treated others with respect and acceptance? How often have we not cared for the least of these as you have called us to do? Too often we want to take the easy path on the road to virtue while we mistreat those in need, casting our judgment upon them. Always with grace and mercy, you gently remind us to love each other as you have loved us. May the words from my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts bring comfort to those who seek it and conviction to those who need it. And may these things be pleasing unto you. Amen. So today's gospel passage from Matthew chapter 21, verses 23 to 32, presents us with questions about authority, as did the poem, authenticity, and the transformative power of love. It's a story of role reversals and the overturning of worldly notions of worthiness and privilege. Authority is a concept that has puzzled humanity for many years. It's a power that allows individuals or institutions to make decisions and exert influence over others. But where does authority truly come from? And what is it made of? In the world, authority is often associated with titles and degrees and positions of power. Yet Jesus challenges these conventional notions. Jesus, the one who welcomed the righteous and the lost alike, didn't fill or fit the mold of authority for his time. I mean, he wasn't ordained. He didn't have a degree from a prestigious rabbinical school. And he wasn't part of what they would call the priestly class of the time. Many would have argued that he lacked the authority to teach in the temple, the holiest of places. But true authority, as Jesus demonstrates, is not about titles or degrees. It is about responsibility, authenticity, and divine calling. So after turning over the tables in the previous chapter and then spending the night in Bethany and then making that poor fig tree wither, Jesus is now in the temple and he is teaching. And the chief priests and the elders ask him, by what authority are you doing? And who gave that to you? Who gave this to you? And of course, Jesus, being Jesus in his cagey manner, doesn't answer their questions directly. Instead, he challenges them by asking them a question in return. And I will ask you this single question. If you give me the answer, I will tell you my authority for these actions. What was the origin of John's right to baptize? Was it divine or human? So we're going to go on a tangent here. You know, my head is a scary place to be. And when I was reading this and thinking about it, I was reminded of the Monty Python movie, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Many of you may have seen it, but there's this scene where King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table are attempting to cross this bridge. And underneath the bridge is this volcano, molten and smoking. And it goes something like this. And first was Sir Lancelot to cross the bridge. And the bridge keeper says, "Stop! Who would cross that bridge of death must answer me these questions. There, ere the other side he see." Sir Lancelot, "Ask me the questions, bridge keeper. I am not afraid." "What is your name?" "My name is Sir Lancelot of Camelot." "What is your quest?" "To seek the Holy Grail." "What is your favorite color?" "Blue." "Go on, off you go then." Oh, thank you very much." And he goes across the other side. Well, Sir Robin sees this, and he says, "Well, this will be easy." So he steps up, and the same kind of questioning ensues. But his question is, "What is the capital of Assyria?" And he doesn't know. And with his exclaiming he doesn't know, it's off the side of the bridge and into the volcano. And then when Sir Galahad is asked, he can't decide his favorite color. "Blue, no, yeah, over the side of the bridge into the volcano. Finally, King Arthur steps up, and he is stopped. "Stop! What is your name?" "It is King Arthur, King of the Britons." "What is your quest?" "To seek the Holy Grail." "What is the airspeed velocity of the unladen swallow?" "Well, what do you mean? An African or European swallow?" "Huh? Well, I don't know." And Sir Bedivere is there, and he says, "How do you know so much about swallows?" King Arthur replies, "Well, you have to know these things when you're a king, you know." Scene. Let's go back to the story of the day. Of course, Jesus, his question in response to the gatekeepers, throws them. It throws them into a tizzy. They are on that bridge with that volcano beneath them, and they are discussing amongst themselves, "Well, if we say divine, He will respond, then why did you refuse to believe him? But if we say human, we have the people to fear for the regard of John as their prophet. Ultimately, they replied to Jesus, we don't know. And Jesus replies to them, neither will I tell you by what authority am I doing these things. And we can imagine, ah! You see, Jesus is prompting them to look beyond the external trappings of authority and to recognize the divine source of his mission. The passage also highlights the distinction between authority and authoritarianism. Authoritarianism relies on power and control, obedience, unquestioned loyalty, and is often devoid of empathy or love. I mean, we are seeing this in our politics of false idols and demagoguery. In contrast, true authority, as embodied by Jesus, is rooted in love and compassion and humility. A love and compassion and humility that is often mocked just as sure as the day he was crucified on Golgotha, when those smug politicians utter the word woke with disdain, as if it were a dirty word. But fear not. We are told that hardened hearts and minds can be changed, because after schooling the priests and the elders, Jesus launches into the parable of the two children who were asked to work in the vineyard. His parable illustrates the power of transformation and the ability to change one's mind. We often hear it as repenting, changing their ways. On the cover of the order of worship, and I believe it might have been one of the first in the slides, you see these women who are standing in a prayer circle. And if you happen to see it in the newsletter this week and the link to it, it is a community called Thistle Farm. It's a nonprofit that is dedicated to empower women who are survivors of trafficking, prostitution, and drug addiction. Many of these women in society would be kept out of places. And of course, when they walk into churches, it would be like, but there they are in the safety of love and compassion and healing, with their arms around each other and praying. And I'd like to think we would welcome them in this room as we have welcomed others. So the landowner approached the older child, and said, "My child, go out and work in the vineyard today." The first child replies, "No, I won't." But afterwards, thinking about it, regretted it, and then went out to work in the vineyard. And in the contrast, the second child, who had a reply, "I'm on my way," never showed up. Kind of like the priests and the chief elders that display their outward piety and privilege, yet they fail to recognize John the Baptist's message of righteousness. Not righteousness like we think of today. Are you righteous? But are you right with God? Are you right with people? Are you right in yourself? So what causes us to change our hearts and minds? It is the transformative power of love and the revelation that we can play by a different set of rules, guided by the principles of compassion and mercy and justice. So you see, love has the ability to break open our hearts and to lead us into a deeper understanding of ourselves and of God's grace. However, we know there are barriers that can block us from allowing ourselves to be changed. These barriers often include, those things, pride, self-righteousness, that's different than righteousness, self-righteousness, and a clinging to worldly notions of authority and privilege. You know, we've been watching them play games on Capitol Hill. And who gets hurt the most? The least of these, the most marginalized. And they sit up there and it's like a chess game for them. And Jesus challenges us to let go of these barriers and to embrace the transformative power of love. In this story of role reversals, we are reminded that God's kingdom does not operate on the same principles as the world. It has a different set of principles. God's realm welcomes the repentant sinner, the lost, and the outcast. It challenges our perceived notions of who is in and who is out, and who is worthy and who is not. And it calls us to question authority of the world, to call into question the authority of the world and those who so easily take it. And it calls upon us to continuously believe and grow our faith, not only through our thoughts, but our words and our actions. You can pray all you want, as Fannie Lou Hamer says, but unless you go out and do something, God is not going to put it in your lap. We know this world is complicated. It's imperfect, oppressed. We know it's not hard to feel timid, apprehensive, and depressed. When all around us tides of questions ebb and flow, and we want solutions, but we don't always know where to go, we can reflect on this passage. Strive to be like the first child who changed their mind. We can be like the tax collectors and the prostitutes who recognize the way of righteousness, and like Jesus himself, who challenged the world's understanding of authority with love and humility, and chose to challenge the systems of oppression that put the tax keepers and collectors and the prostitutes in those places to begin with. We allow our hearts to be broken open by the transformative power of love, and we might even have a revelation that we know what we know, but we don't know it all, and that we can indeed play by a different set of rules than the world sets before us, and we can be guided by the law of love and the one who came in the name of God. Amen.